and maybe some people from Australia up in the middle of the night. My name is Grant Cameron, and this is the rabbit hole that we have every month or every 2 weeks. I'm going to start with a little bit something different today, as everybody's sort of held up in their houses. First of all, let me read the rules to people, how this works. We've done this a lot of times. It seems to work, and basically we only have a few simple rules. One is to respect whatever anybody else is saying, that people have, that's why they're here, is because most people in their life will not listen to their story and do not respect their story. So it is whatever people's story is, it is their story. So respect other people's opinions. We try to keep the conversations down to 5 minutes, so that, I don't know how many people we have on today. We're up to 35. So we have a fair number of people who may want to talk. So we'd say to keep your stuff down, and if there's more time, then people can come and ask you questions and stuff. We don't want one person doing the whole show. At the bottom of the screen, you're going to see a little chat window. It's a little orange box. I would recommend that you send a message. You can send a message to everybody, or you can send a message to Desta. Desta Barnaby is my assistant. She's here in Winnipeg, across the river from me here, and she's the producer of this, and she is in behind the scenes, and she is going to keep track of who wants to talk. So I would suggest that you send a private message to Desta if you want to talk, and I'm going to go through Desta, and we're going to take people as they request permission to speak on whatever they want to speak about. But I want to sort of start today with a little bit something different, because of the situation that there is, and I have spoken out about this a few times, and I have I first started writing about what is, I think, related to what's happening today back in the mid-1980s. As you know, I did the President's UFO website. I chased all the presidents around, and in the mid-1980s, I started to pick up a statement that Ronald Reagan had made. He made it about 6 times. One was at a Maryland school, one was at the United Nations, one was to Gorbachev, one was to Shevardnadze when he came to the United States. And he did it about 6 times, and it has to do with what is now famously known as the alien invasion remark. And I posted this the other day, and all I do is change one word, because the principle that Ronald Reagan put out in the UN speech in 1987 is exactly appropriate to what's happening today. So what I did in this, I'm going to read this quote by Ronald Reagan, and all I do is change the word alien to virus. Reagan's original statement was creatures, and the speechwriter changed it to aliens. And so let me read it to you with the word alien, and you'll see that is basically the same principle of oneness. And oneness is the #1 message that I believe the intelligence behind the phenomenon is trying to put out. So here's what Reagan said. I couldn't help but, when you stop to think we're all God's children, wherever we live in the world, I couldn't help but say to him, Gorbachev, how easy his task and mine would be if suddenly there was a threat to this world from some virus from another planet outside the universe. We forget all the local differences that we have between our countries, and we would find out once and for all that we really are human beings here on this earth together. Well, I guess we can wait for some virus to come and threaten us, but I think that between us, we can bring about that realization. So Reagan's thing was not so much the alien invasion, it was the idea of the world uniting. And to the Maryland high school kids, he said, we will realize we're all just God's children. So in line of that, I want to play 2 videos that I think fit into this today. One has to do with the situation that we are all sort of looking out for ourselves and stuff. Is Doug here? I asked Doug if he's. You see him here, Desta? Doug is at the center. He's at the center of this situation going on with the virus. He lives in New Jersey, right on the edge of New York City. He has a number of friends he plays hockey with, and a lot of their wives are nurses at the front line of this situation. So the first one I want to play is a video out of London. This goes on for a couple of seconds, and I would ask that people at least stand for this and realize this is like the Reagan quote, that you see people around the world are coming together. This first started in Italy, where people would sing on the balconies. This happens in most of the European countries at 8 o'clock every night. And what happens is people go out at 8 o'clock at night and they applaud the people who are at the front line of this this virus thing. The people have to realize that there are people like Doug's friends who go in and they are within the 6 feet of these people. They are talking to these people. They are holding their hands. They're feeding them, and their lives are at risk. And so every night in London, we're going to play the video. So Desta, can you take over the screen here and play this video? That this is London at 8 o'clock at night, and I would say that we should as well respect the people who are at the front line of this situation. And it's the other one, Desta. It's the one below it, I think. Have you got the screen, Desta? Oh, there it comes. Okay. This one here, yeah, that's the one there. We got, oh, you got to put the sound on, I think. Oh, it's up. Oh, we're not getting the sound. Okay. So this is a video. This is a video that shows.
Oh, it's because my sound's off. Sorry.
Okay.
You hear it now?
No, you haven't got the screen again. You got to go back to the screen. Take over the screen.
You can't hear it?
No.
It's on. I can hear it. It's full.
Okay. So anyway, for people that have not seen this video, it's from my London in London, England, and it's a people all standing on their balconies all over London, and they're all applauding the healthcare workers at the center of this thing. And in France, they actually play music while they do this. So that's the first video I wanted, and the second one's probably not going to play either. The second one is a train station video that took place. Someone went into the London train station. I was only in London for the first time in the London train station last spring, and I was absolutely blown away by the number of people in the London train station. It was like almost like if you've read Michael Newton, he talks about when you go back through you do the life review, and then you go back along this path and you go into this hub of souls, thousands and thousands of souls all swirling around in a hub, like a train station where you're moving out to different soul groups and stuff like that. And when I saw London train station and the number of people in that train station, you have a video that's on here. It's called, it's not probably going to play, Man Plays an Empty London Train Station, where the train station is absolutely empty. And he plays 3 key songs. People would know that I have written a book called Tuned In, which deals with the paranormal aspects of music and UFOs, connecting all 3. And he plays 3 songs in this video. If you go on your internet and you watch it, the first one is Let It Be, which a lot of people listen to the songs. I listen to the stories behind the songs. And the story behind Let It Be is that Paul McCartney has a dream, and it's the very tough times like it is now for the world. The Beatles were breaking up. McCartney had divorced from his wife. He had drug problems. Yoko Ono had come in. They didn't want her in the band. Harrison had already left the band. It was all breaking down, and he was very distressed. And in his dream, his mother, who died when he was 14 years old, came to him, and she said to him, "It'll be okay, Paul, let it be." That is where the song comes from, and it's sort of a message that we can put out today. It'll be okay, let it be. The second song that he plays is Imagine. And for people who have followed my Facebook, I had a very bizarre synchronicity that occurred with the song Imagine with Gaia producer Sid Goldberg and Uri Geller. Imagine is the sort of the one song from the Beatles. It talks about how the world should come together and be one. That's the second song. And the third song that he plays on this video is my favorite song, and it is What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong. And that is a critically important song to me. There are two people that may be on today. I can't really see here, but there are two people on here who I have talked to in the last month or two who have had this vision, and I'm sure I'm going to find a lot more. I've got three now. The vision, and it's a vision that comes with absolute certainty, in which they're given the message and they're shown with absolute certainty that everything is absolutely perfect. Everything, no matter how bad you think it is, everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. And so there's two people on here who have had that vision, and that's the third song, where he says, "What a wonderful world." So I wanted to put that out, and I wanted to do a 3-minute meditation to meditate about the world. My personal meditation will be for compassion for the people, because what you got to realize, I work in an extended care facility. I volunteer there, and I know there are no volunteers. And so I think in a compassion meditation, remembering today the people who are dying from this, that when you die from this, you die alone. There is no family, there's no friends around. There's just staff, nobody's allowed in the hospital. And the people who are grieving the deaths of these people are also sitting there just waiting for the phone to ring to find out that their husband or wife or child has died. So I think we should have some compassion in our meditation today, and we should have thankfulness that we are eternal, that we are here, that we have a chance to help. So let's give it 3 minutes, and then I'm going to take over the screen for just a minute. I'm going to show you some very unique UFO photographs that were shown to me, but we'll do 3 minutes of meditation, and then I'm going to take over the screen. Thanks. Okay, thank you for that. If everybody can see my screen, I usually don't do UFO photographs, but I just got these photographs and I found them absolutely fascinating. This is a photograph, and I've got them on a PowerPoint. The girl that provided them to me will probably eventually come on, and you'll actually be able to hear her voice in the background describing what these are from. But this is a photograph that was taken on a flight from, come on a flight from, can everybody see it? I hope so. on a flight from Edmonton to Ottawa. And what you have is, as she describes the story, she gets this message in her head that she's to change seats. And she moves up into the front of the WestJet flight, gets her seat changed, upgrades onto the flight into the front. She's sitting at the front window in the front, and this object appears. Now, I'm about to do a PowerPoint presentation in which I'm going to show how we are getting help from wherever we're getting it from, spirits, aliens, higher self. There is a bunch of help that's being given to us. This woman is getting messages. There are a bunch of people. It's like the veil is thinning. And the thing with this is she was photographing this. She saw it immediately. She could see it a lot clearer than what's in the film. But what you see is an object, and it's not a UFO. It actually has like a huge antenna on it, and it's in the clouds. And she's at 37,000 feet. So and this is over Saskatchewan, which if people know what Saskatchewan looks like in Canada, it's as flat as a billiard table. There are no 37,000 foot tall buildings. And so she's photographing this thing. She's madly shooting photographs of this thing above the clouds. And here you can see again, you can see this sort of antenna thing. Here it is sort of at a distance. And here it is in the clouds. If it's in the bottom part of the screen, you can see the actual antenna sticking up from the clouds there. Here it is here. You can see this antenna. So the question is, why would anybody, whatever it is, whether it's alien or whatever it is, why would they appear in a cloud and make this bizarre thing to try to get somebody's attention? And I believe it has to do with the theory of wow, that what they're doing is they're trying to catch our attention on various things that are happening around us. And they gave her a bunch of photographs. So eventually we will do a PowerPoint presentation in which all the photographs that she was getting at various points were given to her. And if you follow Doug Alt is getting this. Chris Bledsoe, the famous experiencer, my friend in North Carolina, says he can go out almost any day and he can make something appear. He's filming every single day. We are at a different point in the UFO world, I think, where it's not random sightings anymore. There's somebody showing some stuff pretty fast and pretty furious to a number of people who have some sort of contact modality, who have been chosen to get this message out through photographs. So usually I don't do the photographs, and so I'll leave it at that because I don't want to take up too much more time. And I'll go to Desta now, and I'll find out from Desta who wants to really start. People can make comments on the situation today or on UFO sightings. We have a number of new people that I invited here today. I got a lot of people come to me with experiencer stories that they've never told before. Some of those people may want to talk on here. So Desta, have you got somebody who wants to start here, and can you open up their mic?
No one has said anything yet.
Nobody has said anything. Okay.
I'm sure someone wants to start.
Anybody can jump in. Just open your mic and jump in. Hey, Julie. Yeah, Julie, how are you doing? I see you waving there. Oh, Julie's going to talk. Undo Julie's mic.
Okay, she's unmuted.
Okay, Julie, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for showing that picture.
So you're going to admit those are your photos.
I am.
Can you tell the story about how it takes place? Because you see, the photo is one thing. I can actually go through the PowerPoint and do the photographs, but you actually have a story that it takes place, that somebody's really sort of edging you on and trying to get you to take these photos, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I was on a WestJet. I was going from Edmonton to Ottawa, and I was actually seated in the right rear of the plane. I think I was seated like row 20 or something. And I was at my gate, and we were going to board probably in about 10 minutes. And at that time, I was just standing there waiting, and all of a sudden, it was kind of like it got dropped into my head. I don't know how to explain to people, but it's very much like it gets dropped into the right side of my head. And basically it was upgrade. And that's what got dropped into my head. And I was like, upgrade. I have never once upgraded my flight, ever. It's not a thought. I'm actually a little bit cheap. Um, Anyhow, I decided to ask. I went to the desk and I said, "Would you have an upgrade?" And they were like, "Well, yes, we do." Turned out to be the front left of the flight, so I would have been sitting right rear, and I was sitting in the right, or pardon me, the left front, like 2A or something. Perfect window seat. And so after we left Edmonton, I don't even know if this was probably maybe 40 minutes into the flight. We were flying over Saskatchewan. I could see the gaps between the clouds, just flat landscape down below. The attendant had come up and spoken to me. And when they turned around and left, the flash actually caught my eye. The sun hit the metal. And so I turned and looked, and I could see this a lot bigger than what you can see through the photographs, to be honest, because when I held my camera to the window, it did like a big panorama. I didn't know what it was, supposed to be focusing on. So it was much clearer to my eyes. I could see it easily, and my vision is not always, bang on, but I could see this. So anyhow, I watched it coming, and I watched it as we went past it. I was like cranking my head around to see if anybody else was noticing this, and nobody was stirring. And I just continued to take pictures. And after we'd passed it was sitting stationary after we passed it. I was looking for more, obviously. And that was when I spotted the two different needles, which were obviously a number of miles off. I don't know what aero miles are, but the needles were basically, they appeared to be freestanding in the clouds. And once again, we were still over, Saskatchewan. So
Yeah, there's the needle there.
yeah, well, there was actually two. There was two different
Okay.
needles.
This was the one here. It's not so easy to see here. You can.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the middle of the bottom picture there.
Yeah. And I actually looked at the passenger beside me because I was sitting up in premium, and he was like leaned away looking at, I don't know, had his eyes closed, wasn't talking to any peasants like me.
And this is 2015, correct? So
No, that was in 2015. The earlier experience I talked to you about was 2015. This was actually August of 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2015, you get woken up, correct?
Yeah. That's a nice way to put it.
And
So,
and you've gotten a few other photos. Let me just go through while you're here.
okay.
This is the one. It's not so easy to see out here. It's on the left-hand side, correct?
My little orb that was playing peekaboo, and that was actually last December. So that was December of 2019. I can see you.
And that's where I got the impression when you described, I've heard this from people before, it's like, I mean, do you really need to show yourself, or is it just some sort of, I call it the theory of wow, where they're just say, see me and go tell people about it, and where
yeah,
you're not really doing anything spectacular, you just happen to be doing something.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and this was I believe this was the beginning of September, 2019. I live on the 15th floor.
Yeah.
And I sat here staring at this thing for half an hour. The sun had set.
Yeah.
And this was the eastern sky.
Yeah. Looking towards the mountains, right?
Looking,
oh, no, going the other way.
Yeah. And this was lit from the inside. And it was so bright. And I sat there and I watched it. I phoned a friend who also kind of lives not far from me. She could see this too. There was there's a glow spot there I couldn't even make out before. Oh, there we go. Anyhow, it was lit like this for half an hour, and it eventually subsided. And I was all over the internet going, come on now, somebody else must have saw this. The sun had already gone down. It was an overcast day. There was absolutely, I live in Edmonton, and it's like flat as a board here, and I have a wide open view from my apartment. It was stunning to see this. It really was beautiful.
And
Beautiful.
And then I made the point that it looks very much like this Billy Ray Cyrus puts on the Twitter, he actually puts his, it looks pretty much the same, where he actually says, I saw these 5 UFOs. I don't care what anybody says. And he films it and puts it on Twitter.
That's right. I think that's what I was saying to you in the email too. I was like, oh, you got to see so many.
So it looked very familiar. I appreciate your sharing that. And just for Desta, my assistant here is QQHT or whatever you call it, the Dolores Cannon. You do that in Edmonton for anybody in the Edmonton area. That,
Absolutely. Yeah. We get people from all over Alberta coming, and Eastern BC and Saskatchewan. And yeah. It's awesome.
So anyway, and I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, thank you for showing. It's kind of exciting to be able to show more people instead of the one-on-one thing I do.
Yeah, it was interesting, and I don't know if you want to talk. You're the one that had the experience where everything was perfect, correct?
Yeah. And that was actually June 9th, 2015.
Yeah.
And that was, there was nothing leading up to it. I don't take plant medicine. I don't smoke pot, nothing like that. It was absolutely unexpected. I don't know if you want me to talk about that.
Yeah, because that people will in this time today, people say there's this bad stuff happening, and the world's coming to an end, and look out. And then I know you had, and I've talked to you, and I mentioned my friend in LA, where it's just shocking, as much as to you as to anybody else, when suddenly you're confronted with this idea, like, no, you got this all wrong. So maybe describe the impression you got, and what do you say to people who say, no, I think there's still, the world's going apart, and it's all terrible, and this kind of stuff.
Oh no, I have learned, especially over the last 5 years since that experience, that everything is divine. Everything is divine. There's no accidents and there's no coincidences in this universe. And there's also no punishments. We're not being punished right now. This experience that Grant's speaking of, this was June 9th in 2015. And I had a few other small things that I realized in retrospect were probably almost like a harbinger of something to come. But the experience was on a Tuesday night, and believe it or not, it's going to sound corny, but it's true. I had actually gone to bed, and I was sitting up on my bed reading. And it was like 10:30 at night when I'd gone to bed, and I was sipping a cup of tea and had my cat. I was kind of feeling a little pathetic. Book, cup of tea, and a cat. Okay. Anyhow, somewhere after about 10:30, I remember looking at the clock at 10:45. I just glanced at it. And somewhere after that, and I can't tell you if it was 20 minutes or a nanosecond, honest to God truth, I was in another dimension. And I was in a place that was light and energy. And this most striking thing, it was the most profound love. In our best moment on this planet, we cannot scratch the surface of this. And the hardest thing for me to explain about this is I felt like it was like third dimension Julie got to peek in on something else, another dimensional. Yeah, it was really extraordinary. And everybody was there though. And that was the knowingness. I knew the oversoul part of me, whatever that was. I knew I was home. I knew where I was, and everybody was there. Even the people that piss you off, they were there too. Okay. It was multidimensional, and that's the part that almost brings me to tears, because we don't even have a concept of that feeling, that beingness. We're so limited, and we don't even understand. And when I was in the experience, and I felt like I was in it and observing it at the same time, if that makes any sense. But all of a sudden, third dimension Julie was like, oh my God, am I dead? Did I die? Boom, out of it. Right? I was like, no, let me go back. The next time I looked at the clock, it was 10 after 11. And I sobbed. I sobbed for days. I knew absolutely to the core of my being, the only thing I knew was that I needed to share. I knew that I was given that to share. I knew that, like I said, to the core of my being. And I share that from this day forward. I haven't shared my UFO and ET experiences as much.
One at a time, eh?
There's only so much weirdness people can take, right? But it was profound love. And I also came to understand through all of this, no accidents and no coincidences. I see it demonstrated now in my day-to-day life. I see synchronicity everywhere. And I understand that this existence that we have here is actually more like a play. It's more like school. And we're here to have these experiences. And we are growing through the chafing and the contrast and bumping into each other. But, even in moments of, profound, anxiety and darkness, like with what we have going on around the globe right now, we also have such beauty coming forward. The videos that Grant was showing earlier, the people all over London applauding. People are caring about each other and they're connecting around the globe. I really think we're in a profound moment right now. And I genuinely don't believe it's a punishment.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. I appreciate that you're sharing, and we'll talk again and we'll get the rest of your stuff recorded. You have a sensational story that I've heard a lot of. Thank you very much. We want to go to Doug now, because Doug was going to come in earlier. Doug is in the middle of this thing. He lives right on the New Jersey, right on the coast, or not the coast, of the edge of New York City. He actually witnessed the second 9/11 plane go in. So he's very close to the center of the storm here. So Doug, you had some insights from some of your hockey buddies. Can you go through that sort of story as to what you're getting there at the center of the storm there?
Yeah, hi Grant, and hello everyone. I'm up at my son's today, and actually when we were in the car, we just heard an announcement that there's going to be a quarantine in New York and New Jersey. I know the National Guard is being called, and I think then I may be at the last moment of being even able to leave my house and come up to see my son Brian, who's in New Rochelle, New York, which is one of the hot spots of this story. But my friend Rich, who plays goaltender for my hockey group, I wrote him again today, and I said this. Let me read it to you. I said, Rich, how are you? Any more news about the ER situation with your wife? Because his wife works in the emergency room. I said, is it all over exaggerated? And he wrote me back and he goes, it's worse than described. I wrote him back and I said, wow, is it the COVID-19 flu or is it everything? He goes, lots of COVID-19, not enough space for everyone, not enough ventilators, masks, protective staff for workers. Only going to get worse. Don't get sick. So that's what he told me today.
Wow, I appreciate that, and I give my love to the people that are there that that have to deal with this. Go to work every day, and because I know I was talking to someone this morning, and they wanted to travel, and they said, "Oh, I'm afraid to go to the airport." And I said, "Well, at least you don't have to go to work and be like within the 6 feet all 8-hour shift or 12-hour shift." That you're there all the time and risking your life, and a lot of these people will get sick themselves.
And yeah, and they have a newborn baby, so so she comes home from work and greets Rich at home. Rich works for Fox Sports. He's in the trailer and he does the play-by-play of a lot of the football games.
Why can't they shut up?
Things like that. What's that? Who said that?
That's Lori from Toronto. Hi, Lori. Okay. Go ahead, Doug. Keep going.
Oh, okay. I wasn't. I'm wondering if she was telling me to shut up. That's why I stopped.
She wasn't.
And that's so. I have several other hockey buddies who are in whose wives work in hospital, and I heard from another one too, who said it's a disaster area. That's all he told me. He goes, my wife told me it's a total disaster area. So, and yet I have been struggling with the reality of this and what it really is and what it really means. and I went into an analysis of the H1N1 virus, the swine flu, which, believe it or not, I got. I got that swine flu when it came around at a time when I wasn't paying attention to anything about a flu. I always thought a flu was a cold in the wintertime. So people would go, oh, I got the flu. And I'd be like, oh, and so then they would say, I got the flu shot. And I'm like, no, I don't ever get a flu shot. It's not a big deal to me. If I get sick, I get sick. And I got that flu back then, the H1N1 swine flu. And it was one of the worst things I've ever went through. And I do remember saying to myself, I could easily die from this. I remember how severe it was. But here's what I don't understand. And I don't want to, and Grant, if I start to take this in a direction you don't want to go, just let me know.
Yep.
But what I don't understand is if you looked at the statistics of the H1N1 virus, as far as I can tell, and I read an article by somebody recently about it, there were like 900 something thousand people infected and 75,000 people that died, but I don't remember it. Like I remember it, but I don't remember it because nothing changed in our world. No quarantining, no social distancing, no close down of cities and countries, no businesses shut. And what I'm trying to understand is, and I understand that this COVID-19 is very infectious, but it's very infectious, but its death rate doesn't seem to be anywhere near what the H1N1 virus was. And so why are we doing this now and we weren't doing this during the H1N1 swine flu virus? What's different about the two of them? That's what I'm trying to figure out, because the only thing I can figure it out, as cynically as it sounds, is that it's an election year. So,
well, I just looked it up, and the figure that they're giving on the internet is 18,000 dead from H1N1. I had a friend who was in intensive care for 2 weeks, and we went to see her every day. She was on a ventilator for 2 weeks and managed to make it through. But you got to remember that it's over in a lot of places. I'm in Manitoba. It's basically over here. The curve is flat. It's all down.
What's over? What's over? The COVID-19 or the H1N1?
Well, both. The H1N1, we haven't had any cases. We haven't had a, except for one case that came in from another province. We haven't had any COVID cases for, Desta can correct me, but for days and days and days. We're shut down because we don't want other people coming in here who are infected that, figure that they can just move around or whatever, because then you got to start all over again, shut everything down again.
What I'm curious about is that you said something like 17,000. I read that there were 75,000 people that died from the H1N1 virus. Now, I'm not sure what the beginning point of the measurement was and that the ending point of the measurement was, where they took that statistic. And we may be in the early innings, so to speak, of the COVID-19 virus. So maybe there's not an easy way to compare them unless they ran a full year. But I guess really what I'm asking everyone, or what I'm getting up every day and asking myself, is why this world, we shut a planet down. It's remarkable. I don't know how it even could happen, but every country is being quarantined and shut down and this and that. And why didn't it happen with the swine flu virus? That's which was, I think, 2009, if I'm not mistaken. And that's what I don't get about this. What is so different about this that we're doing this? I don't get it.
Anybody want to comment?
I agree, Doug.
There's
something weird going on.
See,
I have some comments.
okay.
Am I stepping on somebody else who wanted to talk?
No, I was going to get you in there, Jean.
Okay. So in the chat, I sent a link to a so-called worldometer that's tracking the spread of COVID-19. And I watched with interest the last couple of days, the United States, the US surpassed China and Italy and ranked #1 just a couple of days ago, and then shot over 100,000 cases. And I'm a journalist. I've been covering this story since the middle of January, when it first appeared in the alternative press. I'm an alternative news reporter.
Okay.
And I just sensed in January there was something conspiratorial about this. I write conspiracy theory articles. And my psychic self said, pay attention to this. But I would never have guessed that things would accelerate as rapidly as they have, to the point where now and I apologize for having to speak some partisan words here. I'm a libertarian, which means I can poke fun at both sides of the political aisle. I can support good ideas from both sides of the political aisle. So please don't think I'm hating on anybody. I'm not. What I'm saying is that in the United States, the Democratic Party is seizing an opportunity not to let a good crisis go to waste, and is bundling expansion of voter rights into coronavirus response legislation, thinking that by the November elections, the virus will still be raging, people won't be able to go to vote centers, polling places, and that therefore we need more provisions to expand vote by mail and absentee voting. Nothing wrong with those, except that also they've written in, Pelosi had written in to her version of this legislation, and again, I'm not hating on her, I'm just saying what's concerning to people who believe in liberty in the United States is that one provision of this new law, should it pass, is that no ID would be required to cast a vote, and that you could register to vote in line at the vote center. Well, the way it's supposed to work, the way it has been working, is that people who apply to vote are vetted. We are sure that they are documented US citizens, but the Democrats have been pushing for undocumented people being able to vote legally and setting up systems so that they can. So my point is, and I'm afraid that was a little long-winded because I have some other things to talk about the virus just briefly. It's interesting how this crisis is being politicized. As an observer, that's my observation. It's interesting to me how this is being politicized. And we have enough on our plates. Why this? In terms of the disease itself, when I began reporting this, it was described as flu-like, like influenza. A doctor in Italy, on a video that I saw a couple of days ago from Italy, was speaking and said, this is much more like bronchitis than flu. And it incubates for a while, and then when it first displays symptoms, it is sore throat and coughing for some indeterminate number of days, depending on your immune system, apparently. So you want to keep building your immune system. If this thing passes from the throat center into the lungs, the chance of survival goes way down, like near zero. Because once in the lungs, this virus combines with mucus somehow, and it clumps it and it solidifies it. And so you've got nodules of mucus in the lungs, and it deprives oxygen from these tissues, living tissues, and kills them. So now the lungs are full of clots and dead tissue. And that's not good. That's when you have to go on. Well, at that point, you're probably already on a ventilator. So Alex Jones on InfoWars has been talking for years about natural herbal substances such as oil of oregano, specifically oil of oregano, to make into a nasal spray. It's got antibiotic properties as a natural remedy to fight any viral infection. I happen to have been on an antivirus cleanse from medical medium Anthony William to fight a separate virus, completely separate, that is linked to thyroid disease and shingles, which I've had. So I know I have this virus. I've been on a no dairy, no gluten, no pork, no eggs, and I never ate a lot of sugars, but more aware of not eating artificial sugars and such, and preservatives, to clear this thing out, basically starve that virus and feed my immune system at the same time with fruits and vegetables, healthy foods. And my thinking is what's good for Epstein-Barr virus, which is what I'm treating, would also fight any other virus, except there's a third component, and then I'll be quiet. The third component is the conspiracy angle of where did this thing come from? So early rumors were that it was coming out of the Wuhan lab, and that it was being engineered as a bioweapon. But more recently, I've seen evidence from the U.S. Justice Department, allegations from the U.S. Justice Department, that 3 individuals were apprehended at a U.S. airport, all trying to leave. And I don't think they were apprehended at the same time and not necessarily at the same airports, but they have all been apprehended trying to smuggle out coronavirus. Now, I don't know if it's COVID-19. The COVID-19 is a new strain of coronavirus, and there have been several coronavirus strains that have made big outbreaks, such as SARS in 2003. So this is a variant of coronavirus that's never been seen before. Therefore, there's no treatments, there's no cures, and we're now just getting around to developing tests. So was this thing, China said, the United States developed this as a weapon against China. Other people are saying China developed this as a weapon against the US. But these 3 people, according to the Justice Department, were apprehended trying to smuggle out some coronavirus to go back to China. One of them is a military officer, a lieutenant in the Chinese military. The other is a top Chinese scientist who wanted to take this virus back to his lab and claim credit for the research he did for it. And the third is an American who's basically a double agent. So that's available on the Justice Department website. As other people are talking, I can go find that link and post it here. It's worth a read. There are very strange, and my psychic self, my divine self, tells me there is more to this story than meets the eye, perhaps more than we will ever know. And I think I've said enough now. So I would appreciate any feedback anybody has on any of the 3 things I talked about, which are the origin of this thing, its symptomology, and conspiracy theories related to the release. I've also heard this is related to 5G rollout, that there's a 5G syndrome of symptoms, that, in other words, extreme radiation poisoning, and that China flipped the switch in Wuhan, saw people dropping dead. We saw those videos first, people dropping, sliding down walls, dropping in the street. A guy had bashed his brains out, dropping in the street, and a person in a full hazmat suit standing over, allegedly a doctor. The theory here is that 5G was rolled out and then the virus was released to mask the symptoms of 5G poisoning. This is just a whack. Okay. I yield the floor. Thank you for listening.
Jean, if I could, and I'm sorry, everyone, I have very limited battery life. I told Desta earlier, I'm up at my son's without a charger, and I'm going to lose my batteries. So if I can get my 2 cents in right now, then I'll shut up. But I want to say, Jean, you and I are simpatico on so many things about what we know about this, how we deal with it, how we deal with health, our political stance as being a libertarian and not really caring about making to the right correct or making to the left correct. But so many of your suspicions of this I share. And I do know that that was a Harvard professor that was arrested, a Chinese military, all involved with Harvard. And one of our military people or one of our FBI people were talking about it, and he was saying, you see, here we go. China, these 2 guys from China neglected to put on their form, their educational form coming in to be able to get an education at Harvard. They neglected to put that they were with the Chinese military. So they left information off, managed to get here. They get to an American institution like Harvard. And then one of them was smuggling back, I'm not 100% sure if it was the COVID-19, but he was smuggling back genetic material in his sock, of all places. It was a vial or something in his sock. And I got this directly from an FBI report. It was an FBI agent that did a talk on this. So here we have some Chinese students in an American university smuggling back genetic material to China. So this certainly does complicate the story. And I've read all the 5G, and I follow, I'm on Project Avalon, and I follow all the threads on Project Avalon. So many people chiming in. It's unbelievable. And we still don't really seem to have a good foothold into the authenticity of what this is. And when people talk about the word, and we've been getting into this on Project Avalon, there's a discussion as to whether the virus is fake or whether the virus is not fake. And everybody's arguing. And the problem is terminology. And I keep trying to be clear about this. I don't think the virus is fake. I think the virus is real. I think it's going to damage and kill who it does, just like any other virus that comes every viral year. I think it's tied into an agenda that's fake. And that's the distinction I make about what I think is fake about it. Not the virus, but it's being used. It's being piggybacked onto some sort of thing that I don't quite understand yet. And we're going to have to wait to see if we find it out. But it's going to destroy businesses and lives. And if you say follow the money, if people say follow the money in the world, I just don't get who benefits. Sports teams shutting down, baseball seasons shutting down, the Olympics. Isn't this going to cost people billions and trillions of dollars? Isn't there somebody that should step up, some consortium of scientists or somebody that would make it clear what's the distinction between this and the other viruses that have come along ever since, and clear this thing up for everybody? So that's what I feel we need to have happen, and now I'll quiet down and try to follow. Thank you.
Anybody else want to get in?
I do, Grant. Can you hear me, Grant?
Yep.
Anyhow, this is Linda. I talked to you a little bit about the fact, Grant, that I have a map of where all of the states have quarantined themselves and shut down. And if you pull up a state of a 2012 election map, it almost exactly matches Democratic states. Almost all the Democratic states have shut down and quarantined. Those that are not Democratic are, semi-quarantining or not quarantining at all. So I just find that that political thing that you were talking about, Jean, has some validity, and you can take a look at that. Who shut down and what states are Democratic? So there seems to be that Democratic, we're going to just close everything down. And if you notice who wants to keep the government or our country working, it's Trump. Keep America working. So he's trying to keep things flow as normal, but everybody looks at him then and say, oh, well, you're so cool, don't care about anybody, all you care about is money. It's a real interesting, I think we have so many plots going on right now that it's very difficult. 5G is a big deal. And I've heard a lot about 5Gs. I've also heard you should not get vaccinated, that there are things that are being put in vaccinations that they can affect by 5G. So what's true? I don't know. I do not know the answer. I only can observe what I observe. But I think it's important to see where the virus goes, because the virus isn't political. The virus just, in fact, it's not even alive. But where is it being handled? Who's getting it? Where's it going? And where did it come from? We don't know. We're going to find out, but right now we don't.
Can I ask, are you proposing no quarantine, that people just walk around and do whatever? They're just
Am I
go back to work?
proposing that? I'm thinking that at this point we have overreacted to the point we're willing to collapse an economy and put people in fear. Or something that is maybe not anywhere near as deadly as they are making it out to be. But I don't know that to be true either, right?
Okay, but I still got the question is, do we stop the quarantine and everybody go back to work?
I don't think I would go as far as that either. I don't know that right now. I would, because I don't have enough information and I don't care to be irresponsible. But I don't think that to shut down completely everyone is also wise, because what does that do if it's people in fear? And you have a country full of fear, and now you have Mother Earth, who's connected to our consciousness, also reacting to fear. So what do we get? We get earthquakes and tsunamis. And so it's the fear response that's out of control. It's not the virus, it's the fear response. People are in fear. How do we eliminate fear? And are they in fear of dying of a virus? Not as much as they are about starving.
Well, that's an article I wrote a couple of days ago, quoting President Trump in the United States. The title of this article, Trump says U.S. business closures are suicidal, which is a title form of his concept that putting people out of work drives people to suicide. Contrarians are saying, oh no, that's not true. People will rally around crises, bring people together. But statistics show that people unable to provide for their families become despondent and tend to end their lives. And more importantly, perhaps, the opposite is true. Being a scientist, I look for not only disproofs, but supporting opposite truths. Okay, so the inverse is true. When you raise minimum wage, suicide rates go down. So this thinking that a bad economy won't affect people is bad thinking, in my opinion. And Trump nailed it. And, you know, when Trump talks, he's talking, but other people are advising him. I'm not saying he doesn't have original ideas. I'm saying that I believe his ideas, if I were him, President of the United States, my ideas would be formed after consulting with other experts. Trump, as a successful businessman, must surround himself with other successful people who know more than him about stuff he doesn't know much about. And then he takes their advice and incorporates that into what he thinks is true and right and relays that, mostly through tweeting, apparently. He's saying that keeping businesses shuttered will doom the whole United States, and that either way, whether we go beyond 15 days or 30 days of imposed quarantines and social distancing or not, the virus will spread. Some people are going to die. Unemployment spreads. Some people are going to die. One way or the other, some people are going to die. If businesses stay closed too long, lots more people. That's his thinking. Now, I'm on the fence. But there are a lot of people. I've written another article years ago about how the average American, United States citizen at least, does not have $400 in the bank, does not have $400 to their name. So if you've lost your paycheck and you live paycheck to paycheck, which is the norm in the United States, by the way, more people do that than not. These are the people who first are going to suffer and then collapse. And there's a saying that any of us, that society is 9 meals away from crisis, from looting, robbing, riots in the streets. 9 meals. That's 3 days of no food. That's what that means.
So one more time, I got 5 minutes of battery left. I'm taking advantage of it. Grant, I spoke to Ron about this, and I think Dan is on. Dan Smith, I think you're on because I thought I saw your name. But Ron and I have texted back and forth about this, and Ron is not a person. Listen, Ron is the smartest person I've ever met. Ron is a scientist. He's got a degree in a PhD in chemical science. What's the word? But anyway, you'll know that's why I don't have a PhD, because I can't even say it. But he's not very, him and Princess Aaliyah, they're not very affected by this. They don't really care. And of all people, I would think that Ron would know, with his inside information and the people that he knows through the CIA and then this and that and everything else. He's like, look, there's viruses that come out of China every year. Many viruses that come out of China every year. Most viruses come out of China every year. And he said nobody even notices them. Nobody would even know their name, and no one would even hear about them, and they would come and they would go and they would just pass, and that would be the end of it. So something is happening here with this, but he was the one that was, he has a PhD in chemical physics. That's what I was trying to say. And he was the one who was trying to tell me that if you look at the statistics, he goes, and you got to look at peer-reviewed journals, not the news, peer-reviewed journals. And I'm sure Gene would probably agree with this. You got to look for your sources. He goes, the information on all these other viruses are no less worse or whatever than this virus. So something is happening with this virus, again, that I don't understand. And I even thought Ron would tell me something like, oh, no, it's terrible. It's like you got to be careful. He says it's a media drummed up and hyped up thing. And I believe he intonated to me that, as Gene just intonated, it's political. It has to do with knocking a guy that's really not into globalism, Trump. He's sort of a protectionist president. He wants to know that we're building everything here. He wants to know that we're taking care of ourselves. He wants a border up so that people just can't come in. And I think the globalists who want this, world consortium going on don't want him there. This is at the moment where I'm at, and I'm not sure of anything. I'm not that smart about politics, but I do think there's a political side to this that is making this reality happen.
Okay, just for the facts, I think you have to point out that Ron is still collecting his salary. So
Sorry, what did you say?
Well, no, Ron is still collecting his salary, right? Doug is saying Ron is not affected by this, but he's still collecting his salary. I mean, there are.
I would like to respond to Doug, if I could, please.
Yeah, and
Right.
Dan, I'm not the one. Don't get something got conflated.
Yeah.
Ron,
I'm in a small. Well, I guess with Julie here. Hi, Julie. That I think this is, part of the overall plan, and it's not to divide us. Ultimately, it will bring us together. Right now, it's to wake us up, and maybe people are overreacting compared to earlier times. But I think the reaction is beneficial, and it is waking us up. And I don't think we should miss this opportunity. I think we have a virus portal here that we're all going through, and I would take advantage of this opportunity.
I would like to speak up.
Go ahead.
My daughter now has coronavirus 19, and I've known 3 people in the last 2 weeks that have died for it, or died with it, and our hospitals are packed.
Sorry.
And the news media doesn't really tell people what's going on. They can't really count how many people have the virus because we have no access to the testing here. I went to the doctor 3 weeks ago and asked her about that. She said, we have no access here. The closest clinic is the Mayo Clinic in Rochester. I live in Minneapolis, St. Paul area, and we do have a lot of people here with the coronavirus. But like I said, it's not being told.
May I speak now?
Go ahead. Enrique, welcome. Go ahead.
Well, I was talking to friends in Germany, Italy, Spain. I don't think the problem is actually the virus in itself, because the mortality rate is very low. The thing is, it spreads really, really fast. And that's the main problem. The doctors have this index rate of spreading. It seems in China it was like 3 or 2 point something. And the way they lowered the index was putting people in quarantine. And that's what they are trying to do in the United States and many other countries. Germany is exactly in the same situation now. So the thing is that if this spreads so fast, the health system is going to collapse in every single country. And that creates chaos all over the place, economical, social. So they are trying to contain the spread of the virus. This is not an overreaction. This is something that is really happening. And maybe the media is not covering fully in order not to create more chaos, but this is how that is happening. And I don't think it's a conspiracy theory behind this. I think it's the planet shifting, changing, and we are changing with it. And I observe the global warming as a fever. The planet is getting sick, and we are participating as part of the sickness. Now, a virus is like the immune system. Is the planet reacting in order to contain the infection? And if we see now, the planet is healing as we are contained. If you see the canals in Venice, the dolphins are playing there because there is no more tourists, no more contamination. If you see the streets in Spain, you're going to see some wild animals walking on the streets. In Japan, the deer are coming down from the forest asking, where are humans? And while that happened, our skies are getting clear because there is no contamination. We are not driving anymore. The ozone layer is getting better. So the planet is healing at a really fast pace right now. and it's because we are quiet. So I think we should go beyond that view of conspiracy theories and try to comprehend how we are united now in this. We are all the same. There is no nationalism or globalism. We are one planet. We are one single being. And we have to work for each other now. This is the way we survive, cooperation. So I think that this is happening definitely for a reason. You see, in our genome, there are marks of more than 30 different pandemias and, how you call it, epidemia, pandemia?
Epidemics, yeah, epidemics and pandemics, yeah.
Epidemics and pandemics in our genome, which means we have been hit before by this kind of diseases. And now, if that's the case, those viruses are imprinting in our DNA. And that's what stimulates our development, our evolution. So this is part of evolution also. And we shouldn't be afraid of it. It's gonna happen. It's happening actually. Last night, I was talking to my girlfriend as we were driving around just to breathe. And I was mentioning her all the weird conspiracy theories out there. And I mentioned one that is really scary. Many people are talking about an asteroid coming and the CEOs of many companies quitting to be with their families because in the middle of April, it seems that this asteroid is gonna hit the Earth and it's gonna be mass extinction and all that stuff. And as I was speaking to her, she was asking me, but would us be able to see the asteroid or the comet coming? Actually, it was a comet in this theory. And how would it look? And I remember when we were coming out of the car, close to the moon, we see this very bright star. So I said, maybe if there would be something like a comet coming our way, it would look like that star that is really bright, only with a tail. But at that moment, another light just shine and start moving towards that big bright star, and it crossed its path with the star, like crossing it. And immediately came to my mind the memory of what happened in 2000. I think it was 2002, in November 1st. I don't know if you remember, Grant. There was an incident in Turkey where many airplane flights noticed an asteroid getting in the atmosphere, and a UFO appeared in the back and just destroy the asteroid in plain sight of everybody. Yeah. Even there is a film of that. So when I saw that light crossing the path of the star, I immediately sensed that we are protected. We shouldn't be afraid of that. It's not gonna happen. That's not the way it's gonna happen. We are just shifting, we are changing, we are evolving right now. And a virus is inserting new information that we need to become a universal citizen, not just national people pushing away others. Like it happened in Europe, they were pushing away the Muslim people. Here in the United States, the president trying to build a wall to push away Mexicans and people from Central America. In South America, people pushing away the people from Venezuela who were migrating because of the conditions in their country. I mean, we have to go beyond that separatism, that border mindset, and just realize that we are together in this. This is no accident. We have to grow in consciousness regarding what is going on for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. I just make two quick points on that. I always point out that in the human body, 2.5 million cells die every second in your body. It is a process. It works, and it's so. I always say, just make it up that I made the virus. In the spirit world, I decided to bring it in here to make a shift in the world. It really, to me, doesn't matter where it's coming from. It's what you do. You're sitting at a poker table, and what we're doing a lot of times is we're trying to get the dealer to change the deck and deal different cards. You have to play the cards. If you get it, you get it. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. In a reincarnation world, a lot of what we have is we make pacts and soul contracts to do certain things. And it's so, to me, it's more incumbent upon what you do, not what's happening. We really, in a lot of cases, cannot change what's going on. If you look at the figures, the number in the United States has gone up 8,000 since this morning. Whoever's going to get it is going to get it. It's a natural process of life that these viruses go around, and it comes down to what do you do with what do you do with the cards that are being dealt with you, rather than what cards are being dealt to you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I would like to speak if I could.
Yes. Go ahead.
Oh, which one of us?
Okay, you go.
Okay.
Scarlett, go. Oh, no, okay, go. Who are we here? Hildegard, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to say, your analogy, you know, we have an accumulation of life forms in this shell called the physical body. And from my contact with EAs, I see this process that we go through collectively, now one where our consciousness is challenged. Are we holding on to the old programming faced in fear or separation? Or are we ready to really look at self and see where am I operating on a lower vibration, according to Dr. David Hawkins, talking about it in his book, Power versus Force. Vibration high enough, no disease possible, doesn't matter what it is. But that is an individual trip. And I think in a way, this isolation is really great opportunity for us to really look within and see where am I still resonating on a lower vibration of guilt, shame, blame, fear, jealousy, whatever, negativity, and what can I do within myself to raise that vibration, because I believe the old adage, you know, Jesus Christ is supposed to have said that, know thyself and all the wisdom and riches of the universe will be given unto you. So I think it's great in a way that we isolate people. Yes, the disease is real. I just came back from burying my dad. He might have died for COVID-19. It's not fun when you lose a loved one. I'm totally empathetic with what's going on for people who are on the front lines and for the people who are now alone in their last moments. My dad didn't have anybody with him either. So it's real. It's very real. However, what I then say to myself is, maybe his soul didn't want to experience what's going on, because from what I've learned from my contact with the Andromedans for the last 28 years, the vibration that's poured onto this planet, or let's call it differently, the planet is positioning himself in a situation where the vibrations go up rapidly. And everything that is not aligned with universal law, with love and compassion, eventually will spin itself out. We might have, and I'm convinced we all have all the diseases in our spinal fluid. However, it behooves us as individuals as well to do what we can to strengthen this vehicle, to detoxify, to improve on what we put in and around us, not just physically, but also, you know, sometimes we need to leave people and situations behind and a very well-paying job if it's not aligned with our soul's value system, you know. So anyway, I'm glad you are doing this, and I do my meditation. That's one thing I could recommend if people are interested at 9 o'clock at night, Eastern Standard Time. There is a special peace, love, whatever meditation by Swamini Bhavya from divinelight.org. So if you go to divinelight.org, you can click yourself in there.
Thank you, Hildegard. And for anybody that's in the Toronto area, you run the Experiencer group in Toronto, and
right, we're doing it online. The first time next week from 7 till 7:45. I just have 45 minutes to see how people would like to do it, and then we probably get the better Zoom membership and do it regularly just to support each other.
We'll try to join you. We'll try to get the Winnipeg link, the Winnipeg group linked up, and you can link up to our group.
That'd be awesome.
We're doing the same thing. We're going online.
Yeah, perfect.
Desta has given me the instructions here. Bill is next. So go ahead, Bill. Is Bill here?
I'm trying to get him. Bill and Tamara.
Bill and Tamara, and then Carla.
Maybe they're not here.
Okay, Bill.
I'll
Oh,
get
they
Carla.
were here. Yeah, I saw them
They
there
were
before.
here.
Okay, Carla, do you want to go?
It's just gonna take me a sec to find her. Okay, she's unmuted.
Here I am.
There you go. Welcome.
Thank
Where are you
you.
speaking from? What part of the country?
I live in Tampa, Florida.
There we go. So
Down here, I'm in my sleeveless shirt.
there you go.
It's hot here.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, Hildegard, I just want to give my condolences about your father. And I wanted to make 2 points. First of all, I worked in hospice, and I believe that nobody ever dies alone. It's been my experience with working with the dying that people from the other side come to them as they near their transition. And these people help them, these entities, beings, whatever you want to call them, but they're people who've already crossed over from their lives, and they help them make that transition. And it starts happening maybe several days to a week before they do. So I always tell people, please don't feel badly because they did not die alone. So I want to just let you know that. And I do believe that souls have make the decision as to when they're going to cross over. So I believe they have some control in terms of when that will happen. And usually it's when a loved one is not there, because they would prefer not to have that person go through that experience of the dying process. So a lot of times people will step out of the room and not be there when their loved one passes, and they should never feel guilty about that. The other thing I'd like to talk about, and Grant, on your Facebook message that you sent me, I posted something that I'd like you to see about consciousness. And I'd like to shift the conversation, if we could, to get away from talking about political or conspiracies and talk about consciousness.
Okay.
And the reason I want to talk about that, and I don't know how many of you saw the interview that was done with Sherry Wilder, but she talked about what she has come to learn through her experience, and that is how powerful we are as beings on this planet. And she talked about how that is what the primary message is coming to her from these extraterrestrials or entities or phenomenon. And I think what we are supposed to learn is how we create our own realities on this planet. And the only way we're going to be able to overcome some things that we're dealing with is to change how we think about things. Our thoughts are creative. We create through our thoughts and our words. And I'm a unity minister. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we teach that. And did you find it, Grant?
I'm just looking now, yeah.
Okay. It's in our email that we
email, or is it on Sherry Wild's video?
Yeah, okay. But anyway, so I think the point that I'm really trying to get across is rather than casting blame on a political party or an individual or anything, that we need to take into consideration our own thoughts, our own beliefs. And I think love is the greatest power that we can use at this time. Instead of pointing fingers, it's loving, and what would we do out of love to the people that are involved in this tragedy? And how can we change things in the future? We all know and are witnessing climate change around the world. We're seeing the effects that it's having. We're seeing the effects that we've had on this planet in terms of our oceans and seas and the plastic that is building up in these various places. And it's because of a human consciousness and a lack of awareness that we're all one, as the point was made before, that we have the ability to change things, but the only way we can do that is to change our consciousness. And that means what we believe, what we think about, what we say, what we do. So I would like us to move from that feeling of victimhood to move to a sense of control, of using our consciousness in a positive way.
Beautiful. I agree. I agree with you. I mean, I sort of point out the thing with, you know, the idea that whatever is happening, you can react to it in a number of different ways, and that will determine the outcome based upon how you react to it. So everybody's getting bad things happen to them and good things. And how do you see the world? Carl, I have one question, then I'll go to whoever's next. Desta can sort of point out who's next. But
one point I wanted to make too, as many who've been experiencers know, the way that the telepathy and the communication that way, but also in those who've been able to fly the craft, the way they did that was through their thoughts. And that is where our power is. And we can create and do whatever we want to do if we utilize our thoughts. And so I think the phenomenon is, that's part of what they're trying to show us in flying the craft, is that you think, you picture in your mind what you want to see happen, and you utilize that power that we've all been given. And that's the way that we move ourselves in a craft, and it's also the way we create and move ourselves on this planet.
Beautiful. I appreciate your coming in and providing some sort of perspective from a sort of a minister's perspective, in terms of, because we don't get many of them. So I really appreciate you being in the UFO community and being able to share your perspective.
I'm not a traditional minister.
but you still are in that field. I mean, you would be.
I'm a bit more progressive. I believe in reincarnation, and I would be told that I was some type of a heretic, burned at the stake.
Join the crowd. Join the crowd. That's your cross to carry. Everybody's got their cross to carry. Let's go to Peggy. Desta's got Peggy on next here.
Hi. Thanks. I'm gonna just throw out a few things about, because I've been really concerned as far as doing some research of what is going on. Yes, there's a virus, there's no doubt about that. But as the information changes so drastically and contradicts each other so much, it's like, well, okay, what's going on underneath here? And I have to say, I'm not a part of any political party, so that's not the point here. But we have been following down some interesting things that maybe some other people would like to also look into. And one is, where does this come from? And, you know, they do know who patient 0 is. And there was the World Military Games in Wuhan in October, and it was NATO run, that all the military athletes and stuff came through NATO countries and then went home to NATO countries. And so, because we were wondering, why does it pop up randomly all over the world? Because people all came to Wuhan and then dispersed all over the world when it was over with. Now, of course, there's a pissing contest going on between the United States and China, because they're pointing fingers. US brought it over. US says, no, it originated over there. But regardless, it would be nice to know what we're dealing with. And so that's a piece of it. And also, what are the repercussions And the other one is what we call COG, and that's the continuity of government in the United States. And so that is also some other things that are going on underneath the scenes that may change what we have as the so-called United States. So those are things that, you know, we look at. Everything will play out as it plays out, but it's important to have a better understanding, I think, so that you know how to go about your life. And that's what we're doing. Of course, we live like out on a farm. I'm on Oregon, off the Oregon coast. There's no flu here. But I have a, you know, perspective about these things because, you know, yes, I have the spiritual content. I am what you people would call pagan, earth path minister. So we look at the spiritual part of this, and yes, it is bringing people back to respecting the earth. We like that. But there's also another contingent to this that is of a concern to find out what's behind it all and what that other agenda is that allows us to continue either to deal with the virus or to continue with our lives, because this has not been the reaction of every other you know, virus that's hit and went away. And now, and they're suppressing information in this United States anyway, of how people can deal with it. They're just kind of leaving people on their own and saying, we'll give you oxygen, that's it, you're on your own, which is pretty sad to say. And there are things that you can do. And viruses are viruses. I know there's stronger ones than others. I'm also a homeopath. Homeopathy has always been really good against viruses, among other things. But, you know, there has to be some perspective here, and there's a lot of fear, and it's hard to get through media manipulated fear. And yes, it does impact people's immune systems too. So I feel like, you know, I'm always looking for answers, searching what's going on underneath, but I also have both, you know, the spiritual background and the medical background, having worked in the system a bit too, to kind of get a whole picture of things, because it does seem that we never get all the information, and that the information is very important in order for people to be healthy and to keep a perspective on their own lives. So that's my 2 cents. I'd say look up people like George Webb. He's got a YouTube. He's chasing down the whole thing of the people who are in the military and where all the connections of the virus that came out of Wuhan. 5G, Josh DeSole. There's a guy, Daniel, he calls himself Doc Journalist. He's chasing down the continuity of government, what we call COG here. These are all things that can be found very easily on YouTube, on the web, on websites, to find out what the bigger picture is. And I think that's kind of important. That's what we're here for, is to know what's going on. It's not a whole lot different than, you know, the so-called ufology stuff too. You want to know what's going on and how you can live your life within that knowledge. And so there's my 2 cents. Thanks for listening.
I appreciate your insight. From this great state of Wisconsin, Jeff Sell. Oh, what's Peter Chan doing here? Peter, you're not talking. Jeff is first. If you want to talk in a minute, Peter, I'll let you talk.
All right. Are we after Jeff or before Jeff?
Okay, you're go. Okay, go, Peter.
Nobody ever addressed the other pandemics that happened before caused by animal husbandry, such as the pandemic in 1918 was caused by chickens. There are other flus created by ducks, and then swine, and then the SARS epidemic with the civet cat, and then this present one, which is theorized that it's caused by bats, then went on to pangolins, and then jumped on to snakes, and then on to humans. So nobody addressed the fact that it's probably our meat consumption that really is causing these problems. And you look at the history of all viruses that have been created as flus, and it has killed us, was caused by animals. Us eating them animals, us raising these animals. And that is it. You got to look at the virology and you got to listen to the virologists that study these pandemics.
Interesting. And a lot of the UFO community is vegetarian, so that may tie into that.
Yes, vegetarian, or even better yet, veganism, because the veganism does not include any animal products, including milk and cheese and eggs, which is, again, takes a lot of resources. You have to herd all these animals together in groups, and one gets sick, that things will pass around, and eventually will pass around to humans. This COVID is just the beginning of what we can see in the future. There will be stronger viruses out there that will make this look like a little nothing, really. So we have to prepare ourselves. Either we change our diets or we change our ways of producing our foods. This will help alleviate this. I think this is nature's way of telling us, stop killing all these animals. Why murder for your meal? There's no need to. And I don't see that much at all advocated in the media at all.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Beautiful. And tell us a story about closets. I don't think you've been on before. Tell us about closets.
Oh yeah. So being a person of a gay background, I understand what a closet is, and it doesn't help matters because closets are for clothes, even for your folks. In today's day, get out of your closet. I know how it is. I know how it feels. And that's why I joined the UFO community, because I see the same patterns that I went through. Closets are for clothes. Get it out there. Tell all your relatives your experiences, and more will come out eventually.
Beautiful. You were with us together in Shasta. We had a good time. You're a very funny guy and very informative. And your friend is here. Is Jeff Sell going to talk now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Okay. Yeah, as far as the virus goes, I think we're getting a little off subject here, but because of the unknowns, that's why I think everybody's shutting down. Nobody wants, because of how contagious and our medical facilities won't be able to handle it. At least that's my take on it, what I've been hearing. It seems to make sense with me. Anyways, you know, when you started this today, you showed that the UFO with the antennas, there's nothing that says that those are antennas, just some sort of structure. And unfortunately, with aircraft, you're going through 2 or 3 windows, plastic windows that usually aren't very clean, so it doesn't leave you with very good photographs. But when we were out in Joshua Tree in 2016, a craft appeared, and it had, all we saw at the time were 2 white lights, and they moved in on us quite quickly from several miles away, which alarmed some of the people. And some of the people, there were 25 people in that group. Most of the people there were advanced people that were used to doing CE5s and seeing things. But the thing that I noticed was that this craft, whatever it was, it flew right over 29 Palms military base. So it flew, and what we found out later is that this craft was huge. These appendages on the craft were, I think, conservatively estimated to be a mile long. And what was so strange about this is how rapidly it moved up to our group and stopped. It was still probably a mile away, but there were 2 huge bright white lights that were on the tips, what it turns out to be, we didn't know it at the time, but they were on the tips of these long arms. So when these lights reconfigured, I put 2 and 2 together, that these long arms, since they were opposed when it first moved in on us, one of the lights moved up towards the other, as if it was on a pivot point. And that was kind of what was strange that we noticed at the time. Now, again, that's before we knew what the structure of this thing was. So in hindsight, this thing looked to me like it was configuring to come in closer to us. It was moving one of its huge arms. You know, last time I tried sharing on here, it didn't work, but I can try that.
Give it a try.
Okay. And files, I'm going to go to Dropbox, see if that works.
You have to share the screen first. Down at the bottom of the green little file folder at the bottom there.
I already hit that.
Oh, okay, because I still see your picture. I should see your screen.
Okay, so I don't know what it is. What maybe because I don't have a paid account or something. Could that be it?
No, it shouldn't. You should just click on that. You clicked on the green file folder at the bottom there of the screen.
Yeah, I already did that.
Oh,
and
you're the tech guy. You have all the cameras and all the tech
yeah,
stuff.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm trying to merge all these technologies, and it's difficult. So
because usually this works pretty good. The share.
Yeah, I got the green share button right now.
Yeah.
If I hit it, it doesn't take me, and I was able to share once before.
Yeah.
But there with this craft, I'll have to, you know, I have it on. I wonder, can I share a link?
You can put it in the box for people that want to see it. You can put it in the chat box.
In the
but
chat box. Okay, I'll have to
you can put it in the chat box.
So, but what we had, how we found out what this craft was like was that one of the fellows there had an infrared camera. He had 2 cameras, and in visible light, all he saw was 2 white lights. In infrared, it must have just popped in and popped out because it was a 6-second exposure and it wasn't blurry. So it must have just popped in enough for the infrared to pick it up. And there's a whole structure to this thing. We figured the thing was probably the size of a city, you know.
Wow.
So, and then there's also, during that month, there was also pictures caught by NASA. I think it's, what is it, Seoul? They take pictures of the sun. There was a craft with long appendages taken near the sun from NASA, and there's also one picture taken from the International Space Station that was from that month too. So they're around. I guess that's my point. It's just that when I saw that picture with, you know, we think they might be an antenna or something, but who knows what it is.
Yeah. Oh, let's bring Julian, because I want to discuss this just a little bit more. What I was saying about it is that it's not a standard UFO, that every UFO you see is different. And I think my theory is that they're just playing games. They're just making you go like, what the heck? Like that wall thing, when you had that wall thing and you take this photograph and you show the photograph of the wall and everybody's all excited. And it's like, you know, do you need an antenna to go through interstellar space? It's like the same as people are talking about metals now and the pieces are falling off. And I'm going, no, the pieces aren't falling off. You don't come across the galaxy and then have pieces start falling off a flying saucer. I mean, I think a lot of this stuff they're just doing to get you to sort of, whoa, that's what the heck's going on, take photographs. It's raising consciousness by doing weird things because that's what catches your attention. Julie, are you there?
I am. I am.
Can you tell, because you have the photographs, but you said you saw it pretty clearly. I remember you telling me it was very much clearer.
I saw that very clearly, and I'd also sent those photographs to you of 2 very, very large cloaked ships. And as soon as I acknowledged those ships telepathically, one of them started to disappear within 2 seconds. I don't know. I've seen like, I couldn't even put a count to it, but let's say I've seen 100 ships in the past 5 years, and I've seen some prior to that without knowing what they were. Oh yeah, there they are, the hamburgers.
So you take, and it looks like a cloud, but then you take a photograph, what, second later or something, and one of them's gone.
Second later, it started to disappear. But I want to add something to this too. There's another layer to this, because there was actually a bunch of little tiny ships that I was seeing prior, and I actually took photographs of them. But I couldn't see them clearly. They were like little sparks and things. And I can feel an energetic signature, if that makes any sense to anybody.
Yeah.
I can feel when something is there. That's how it's changed over the years. Now, these ships, I don't know if you can zoom out on that, Grant. This was flying this was December of 2018. I was once again on WestJet. They're my people. And I was flying from Edmonton to Victoria. We had just left Edmonton and we were at 40,000 feet, of course, because we're heading in the direction of the Rockies. And I saw the little sparks and zips, and I was feeling more. And I started snapping pictures with my camera because I could feel something was going on out there, but I knew I wasn't seeing it. Well, then I felt something, and I don't know how to say this other than strong. I hate saying, oh, I felt something, but that's the truth of it.
Yeah.
And these hamburger-shaped clouds, as I like to call them, were showing through my cell phone, but I could not see them with my eyes.
Wow.
Now, I'm not going to use the expletive that I said, but I told Grant, I was like, aha! And
Yeah.
as soon as I did that, I kid you not, the one ship just like vaporized, like instantly. And within another second, there was nothing to get a picture of. I could see them clearly through your cell phone. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It was that quick. I don't know if those pictures were taken 2 seconds apart, just left Edmonton.
Yep.
And I was super pumped. You know, these beings are very telepathic. I've learned that, you know, I guess over the last 5 years. I realize now, probably as far as 30 years back, I might have been feeling them, but not understanding what it was at the time.
Yeah, I think that's the important part that I wanted to have you explain, rather than people just seeing the photographs, is there's this interaction between the participant where they're telling you, move into the seat, go upgrade yourself. Because there's a famous story told by Chris Bledsoe. It actually, John Alexander, who ran non-lethal weapons for the U.S. military, actually tells this story. And he's been in UFO since 1947. He said it was the most dramatic thing he'd ever seen in ufology. And he goes to see Chris Bledsoe to see, why does Chris Bledsoe have this high level of contact where he's taking these photographs and he's got all this stuff happening. And the U.S. military and the government knows enough to follow people like Julie and Chris Bledsoe and stuff, because that's where you're going to figure out what's going on. And so he tells the story, and he does an entire chapter in his book on this story where he's standing with Chris Bledsoe. Because if you ever go to Chris Bledsoe's place, he'll take you and show you where the abduction took place with the 5 witnesses and with the UFO on the ground and 14 UFOs and aliens on the ground. It was just the most bizarre story. And so he's standing at the top of this hill above the river with John Alexander. And then all of a sudden Chris says, they're here. And then John goes, what do you mean they're here? They're here. I know they're here. I know they're here. I can sense them. And he said, well, how do you know they're here? He said, I just know they're here. And boom, this thing appears over John's head and goes flying off into the distance. And John said, it just blew him away. He couldn't believe it. And the whole thing was, how do you know? And that's this instinct that people, even people who claim abduction experiences, will say in the morning, they know they're coming that night. It's this interaction, almost like where people will, when they do the craft, where when they fly the craft, they put their hand on a panel, or they put their hand on a ball, and they become one with the craft. The craft is alive. And what Chris Bledsoe told me is, once he made his in contact with the craft, where he became one with the craft, at that point he could tell when the craft was there, because he can feel the vibration. When the vibration is there, he's one with the craft. He knows when the craft is there. But John Alexander wrote an entire chapter in his book, blown away by the fact. And so what they do is they come to experiencers and they want to know what's different with Julie. What is she picking up? Is she got an antenna in her head? Is she, is it her DNA that's picking it up? How does she know when they're there?
I agree with you. I do, because I feel like they leave me with breadcrumbs all the time, and then there'll be a lineup of synchronicities and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Most experiences will tell that they can sense. They know when it's happening. They know when to take the photo. There was even one that Chris Bledsoe told me, and I think I told you this one, Julie, where he takes 5 photographs of he's got the famous burning tree. Takes 5 photographs with a brand new camera, one after another, rapid succession, in the middle of the night of this tree. And so of course I said to him, well, why would you take a photograph of a tree in the middle of the night? And in fact, 5 of them in a row. And he said, oh, the guy from NASA told me to do that. And I went, oh, okay, now I know why. And they know, they picked up enough from experiencers to know what to look for, what experiences are picking up. And they realize that the people that are interacting with the phenomena, like you and people who, like Chris Bledsoe, are people who are tapped in, and they're trying to figure out how do they tap in so that the government can tap in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so that was the thing with your photographs.
I believe, I tell a lot of people when they ask me about this, I also believe that we can actually summon interaction. This is going to sound awful, but I've had moments in time where I've gone, come on, show me your pretty lights. Right? Started to get the little flashes and
But that's what happens. You see, even with some of the people here, like Peter Chan and Jeff Sells and Enrique, we're all in Shasta last August, and you go through this protocol of raising the vibration in the circle by chanting and mantras and stuff like that. And you make contact. This is the whole deal, that you can make contact. You can bring these people in. And if you have a good sort of, you're like the bait. If you have a good piece of bait that they're in contact with, then you can bring them in. So I think it's that's where I say that the most important thing is not what's happening in the outside world or what UFOs are. It's to listen to the experiencers, because the experiencers are dealing with the intelligence behind the phenomena. It really doesn't matter what you see. These people are actually can talk to them, and when you get their confidence, they'll tell you everything they know. They're not going to be like the government and cover up. They're going to tell you exactly what the beings told them, what the message is, and it's incumbent upon us to listen to these people and not say, "Oh, it's just anecdotal. They think they had this experience now." No, these people are having this experience, and we better start listening to them.
Absolutely. And I believe actually the majority of the interactions do come from a place of love. I know there's a lot of stuff out there in the media that would portray otherwise. I'm not going to say all things, but I'm going to say most, right?
Beautiful, beautiful. I appreciate it. Anybody, Desta, who's next?
I thought I just emailed you something, but now I can't remember. It's Gerard has been trying to get in since the beginning of the
Gerard,
show.
go ahead. Then just send me the next one, Desta.
Okay.
Gerard, go ahead.
I'll see if I can unmute him.
Okay, you got to unmute him.
I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah. Welcome, Gerard.
Hello, how you doing?
Good.
I live in Liverpool in the UK, so a few things about the health service. And I was out clapping last night for the health service. The whole street was clapping, so it was quite an interesting. I've never done anything like that before, but it's
a pretty emotional experience. I just watching it on video is very emotional.
Yeah, it happened for real, yeah. And, you know, they've been getting a bit of priority service down at the supermarkets and things like that. But, I mean, I'm a key worker as well. I'm a railway worker, so I'm moving more fuel to the power stations now than ever before, so there's no rest for me. But it's a very serious thing, obviously, and we don't know how the economy's going to shape up. And like someone said before, it's the virus versus your economy, and what you put first, we don't really know. It's never happened before, but it's something that's just going to pan out, and we're all just going to have to sit it out and see what happens. I mean, I'm also in the military as well. I'm a staff sergeant in the British Army, and I've been contacted by them for mobilisation as well. And that would be purely for moving medical supplies and food and things like that. But I think as it goes, I'm better off, you know, staying doing my job as a railway worker, because that's probably I move like 2,000 tons of food and 2,500 tons of fuel. So I think I'm doing a bit more in the job I'm currently doing. So I'm going to stick with that. But I mean, I didn't know, obviously the virus is a big thing, and we've been talking a lot about that tonight. I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. I'm quite a spiritual person. I was going to talk about my experiences tonight that I've been having since childhood, but
do that, because
it may not be appropriate really, because obviously, you know, but I'll cut it as short as I can. I mean, I've been having out-of-body experiences since I was quite young.
Okay.
And I have seen craft, disc-shaped craft, as a child. I have had the apocalyptic visions as a child, that kind of thing. Now that's ramped up. And in 2018, prior to that, I'd had a lot of dream visitations and various experiences. So I decided to do a 2-year experiment with astral projection and out-of-body experiences.
Wow.
And yeah, the results have been absolutely amazing. I mean, I've got literally hundreds of experiences. But what's more important than that, on the back of that now, I've become clairaudient. I've experienced telepathy, ESP. I've flown the craft. I've been on the craft.
Wow.
And it's been an amazing journey, really. So I think what's happened is with all the OBEs and things I've been having, I've opened some kind of signal up, and that's when the voices started and the various other phenomenon. So what I've moved into now is the hypnagogic phase. So I tend to go to sleep now and I'll open up a window and I'll see documents and dates, times, and so it's progressed to the point where I'm available to view. I don't know if it's the Akashic records. I don't know. But one thing I have noticed when the outer body, the ego goes, all the worry, the fear of death goes totally. And that's one thing that we're experiencing now. People are in fear. And I think the news, the media, they're not helping with this. But one of the messages I was given, I was woken up at 3 a.m. and there was a voice shouting, interjecting fear at me. And I thought they were giving me a title for a book. Yeah, I don't, but it's quite appropriate now, really, because everybody seems to be in fear, and we're interjecting fear everywhere about what's happening with the virus. But what I've noticed with the ramp up of these experiences that I've been having, I've had precognition. You know, I had one a few weeks back where I was stabbed 4 times at a shopping centre, and I kept getting given the name of the shopping centre. It was being screamed at me and visualised. And 3 weeks later, there was 4 people stabbed at that shopping centre. Wow. So, you know, that's a bit of precognition that's coming now. So it's ramped up to the point where I'm having precognition, you know, I'm seeing documents and visualising things like that. So it's amazing how the out-of-body experience were amazing as they were.
So you've had 100 out-of-body experiences?
Oh, I'd say I've had at least 100, yeah. But this last 2 years when I started the journals, which I'm happy to share, and it was going to go in the book. Yeah,
you talked to Sinead, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So
I've sent to some of the experiences. But yeah, the OBEs have increased in their intensity and with the channeling as well. And you know, it's all ramping up to something. But we are connected. I think, you know, we are conscious beings. We're eternal beings, and I think we need to remember that with this. You know, we're not going to live forever. People go around with the vision that they're immortal. You just have to remind yourself that you're not immortal, and that's just the way it is. That's what we are. So I think we need to remove the wow from the spirit and the ET thing. I think the more we see it as a wow, the less it's going to interact with you. I think you need to consider that we are part of humanity, past, present, and future. We are responsible for the past, the present, and the future. I think people need to observe and look at other people and feel the sadness and the love of other people. I find the phenomenon interacts with people more when you feel that universal sort of love to other people. That's what I've found personally. It ramps up more when you feel universal, if that makes any sense. But yeah, these experiences will happen. So I went to a local psychic development group, and you know, we had a chat, and I've joined the group. It's quite a religious group, which isn't really my thing, but it's a channel and seance group. So that's the next phase now. So I'm going to this group, and we're going to be doing channeling, and I've been doing the meditation and stuff like that. So that's another experience. So I've been keeping journals on that. It's quite interesting. Wow. There's been a lot of stuff going on, but you know, I'm not going to go through all the experiences tonight because obviously we've only limited time.
Yeah, we may interview you. We may get you on an interview with Sinead, and we'll go through all your stuff.
I've got so much to go through, and it'd be difficult, and I don't want to take up too much time here. But
well, I appreciate your sharing. It's wonderful. I heard about you, and Sinead just reminded me. I told you about this guy, so I've heard about you. So,
well, I'll send you through my experiences, and you can have a look through. And is there anything that identifies? And I say I have flown the craft. There was one evening where I woke up and I was with the group, and and the panel thing. But you know, I had to put my hand on the panel, and I interfaced with the craft, and that was quite an interesting experience. And later on, I remember in the same hangar area, I was having a sleep on a couch, and then an ET being came over, and the telepathy came in. It's always telepathy, and I asked him to come closer. He placed his hand on my head, and instantly I had an OBE and dropped through the couch that I was laying on. So there's a lot of interesting experiences I'd love to share.
Well, thanks for sharing.
But just one thing before I do come up here. You mentioned before about this antenna on this craft. Well, nobody said it was an antenna, but it did look like
just some weird looking thing. Yeah, the whole craft is weird looking.
Well, it reminds me of this Tic Tac UFO had some kind of an antenna on it for the energy bubble that surrounds it. So I don't know if that's related, but if you ever look at the videos of the Tic Tac UFO, you'll see something sticking out the top of it. So I just thought I'd put that out. But yeah, I'd like to leave it there because there's obviously people want to get in over the virus, and it's a big thing, and I understand that, and it's just something that we're going to have to deal with, I'm afraid.
Yeah. The one thing I'll just make a point. You're from Liverpool. I was just in Liverpool last year. I've been there a couple times. I always go to the Beatles Museum, and John Lennon, as you know, had a dramatic sighting in August of 1974, and he had these big, huge marquee light bulbs on the side of the craft and a red light on the top. And that's where I always said, well, do you really need big light bulbs on the side of your craft and a red light on top to go through space? It was almost like they appeared like that for him, and they appeared Julie a different way, and everybody seems to see a different type of craft.
Well, I'd like to point out something with that. I mean, I've had an experience where I was requesting a higher self to see something, which is quite naughty, really. You know, show me something, sort of thing. And I immediately saw a shooting star. So I don't think it has to be a craft. I mean, are they showing us what we want to see? I mean, it depends on your belief systems, doesn't it? I mean, I think whatever it is, the intelligence behind everything, it seems to play out. It knows it's very close to us, to humanity, and it plays out many times what we want to see. That's what I've got to believe. So yeah. Okay. So it's about us. I think it's all about us. And there's only us. I think I've had experiences as well where I've actually seen through my higher self's eyes, and I've witnessed my own death from his eyes or its eyes. You know, and that was another experience. It was quite profound. Just and at that moment in time, I knew the answer to everything in the universe. And then, of course, the filter blocks that out when you come around and you wake up. I call it the mind filter. It tends to block things out for you. But we need to stop looking like it's always somebody else doing these things. I think it's our own self, our higher self, and I think it's more of what we forgot than what we know. You just forgot it because the filter has blocked it out. I think that's where I've come to understand.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, Desta.
Tamara.
Hi.
Hey, welcome.
It's so good to see. I wanted to share my prophetic dream. And I'm an intuitive medium and an empath, but I don't get prophetic dreams. So that said, about 3.5 years ago, I had the exact same dream 3 nights in a row. It felt so real, it was crazy. And so in this dream, I'm in this cave type thing, and I'm there to see this like prehistoric dinosaur thing that's in the water, but it comes up and, you know, it's kind of like a Loch Ness-y type thing. And I'm there looking at this, and all is well. And I'm looking at this with a couple of other people. And all of a sudden, the world turns upside down, and then it turns right side up. And when I was upside down, it was like I was on a plot of grass. And then like I turn right side up, and it's like I'm on New Earth. There are no people there. It is just absolutely so beautiful. It just makes your soul open and so happy. And like, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then the funny part is this guy comes up to me and he wants $22 from the dinosaur thing in the cave. And I pull out my wallet, and my wallet is like this fat, and it's full of $200,000 bills. And he wanted $22. So I'm like, yeah, okay, here you go. And so this dream happened 3 nights in a row, and it was so crazy. You know, I wrote it all down, and I kept emailing friends of mine going, wow, I got this dream. I have no idea what this means. Okay, if we don't think that applies to right now, like the world has turned upside down. Has it not? Here's the other fascinating thing that has happened from this. In other words, I feel like what is happening now is a spiritual awakening for those who are doing it, who are there, who have awakening, and it's what you make of it. And the day they shut down Disneyland, I thought it was going to happen. I live 1.8 miles from Disneyland. Okay. And so when they shut the park down, I thought it wasn't going to shut down until Sunday. But I woke up and it was like Saturday morning, and I'm like, oh my God, they've shut Disneyland down. I could feel the shift in the energy. What happened was they shut that thing down. Thing is, by the way, it's built on a fort. And the feeling was insane. It was like, oh my God, I feel so much better. And then as they kept shutting down and making people stay home, it's like the vibration just keeps going up, going up, going up. And it's like, you can feel it. And people are happy. We have kids and parents who are now riding their bikes around the neighborhood. People who are out walking, people who are out walking dogs, they're smiling, they're happy, you know. And it's a huge shift. It's like we're back in the 1960s and the 70s when, you know, kids used to play in the neighborhoods. Yeah. So I think this is all happening for a reason, and it all depends on your orientation to what's happening. I have to stay off the news as much as possible. And what I found is at work, if I'm on a conference call and I've got people on there who are hiding from, I'll get off that phone call and all of a sudden I'll start feeling headachy, sore throat, whatever. And I have to go and clear myself because I'm feeling what everybody's feeling and all the fear. So it's like, I have to go clear myself and let it all go. This really is about us raising our spiritual vibration, connecting in with our earth brothers and our space brothers. And this is it, man. The veil is thinning. The veil is so thin right now. The stuff we can pull in and the folks we can have visit us now, it's off the chart. So I think we just have to open ourselves up to it. Continue to clear yourself. Continue to just be grateful. Call in our ET brothers. Ask them for help. Ask for a visitation. Man, you're locked up at home. Yeah. What a better time, right? You know, or go out in the backyard if you happen to have lovely weather like I do down here. And, you know, go out in the backyard, do a CE5 tonight, you know, call them in. And, you know, I've seen a preview of Stephen Greer's movie coming out on April 6th. It's very, very good. So it's all about consciousness. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. And so everybody just raise your consciousness, enjoy this moment in space and time. I really do believe this is a spiritual opportunity for all of us.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Desta, anybody else here?
Amar?
Who?
Amar?
Amar, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm right here. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to say to Jared that I can relate to you a lot with the outer body experiences. I haven't been shown when was I going to die or how. I mean how, but I was told when, like how old would I be, and they said that I would be 70. I wanted to ask you, the reason why I ask these questions is to compare my experiences with people who've had similar ones. When you go out of body, do you go through a wormhole? Because that happens to me every time I do it. And right now, all it takes is like a few minutes of meditation when I wake up, and it happens.
Gerald? Is his mic open?
No, he's muted, I think.
Desta, can you open Gerald's mic?
Gerard, yeah, it's open.
Can you hear me? Because my screen seems to be off.
Okay, go ahead. You're on.
Yeah, it can. About a portal. No, I've experienced out of body travel in every way possible. I've dropped through the bed. I've gone on an wake-induced lucid dream where I've meditated, and sometimes I can take 2 hours, and then you'll consciously feel yourself after the paralysis flows over the body. The hearing shuts down, the third eye opens up, and then you'll ask yourself to rise up, so you'll float up through the roof. That's another entry. To be honest, the easiest way is to if you wake up during the night, you're very relaxed as it is, so you can form a window and go out that way. If you wake up very relaxed, just relax, control your breathing, and then try and rise up out of body that way. So there's many different gateways. Or in the lucid dream, you could be inside a lucid dream, and all of a sudden you realize you're in the dream. It's now lucid, and then you can find a bed somewhere, and then initiate an OBE via the lucid dream. So there's many ways. So I wouldn't like to say a portal opens up. No, that doesn't seem to be the case to me. No, if that answers your question.
Yes, that answers it. Thank you very much. And if I may also talk to Grant about something, if possible.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I watched your interview with Annette. She's a wonderful lady.
With the beings in London, yes.
Yes, yep. And I wanted to share with you one of my experiences. I sent it to Greg Sova because I've been documenting everything that's been happening to me ever since I started coming to your meetings.
Okay.
And I actually saw something similar. I was meditating on my bed, and I saw two creatures. I drew them here at that time, and I have this documented with my email. I can show you right here. I kind of drew it.
Okay.
So I started, before I saw this, I started seeing my mom, even though she was here in the house and everything.
Yeah.
And then all I was thinking was, I love you, Mom. And then as soon as I said that, they appeared in front of me. And so I freaked out, and I got up and I went and fed my cat, and I came back and I was like, okay, I'm just going to lay in bed again and meditate and try to see who it was. And
would you hold that up again, please? I was switching my view and you didn't hold it up long enough. Thank you.
Sure. Do you see it now?
Yeah, raise it up a little. Okay. And now talk.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Looks like the Blues Brothers.
There we go.
So they were kind of gray. They had like hair like that. My drawing is terrible, but but then when I went back to the meditation, I started seeing them again in their area. It didn't look like a ship, but it looked metallic. And they didn't see me. But as soon as they noticed me there, they absolutely freaked out and they started walking around. And I started hearing a purple system on the loop, like an alarm sound, a voice speaking to me like that.
Okay.
And I felt a presence in my room. And as soon as I opened my eyes and I looked above me right here, because my bed is right here, and then I stare onto this roof right behind me.
Yeah.
I saw one of them right above me, but he was wearing, if you can see the interview reminded me of that.
Oh yeah, without the face, without anything, yeah.
Yep, without the face, without
face
anything.
or ears or anything, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's like the beings. For people that aren't aware, Annette Williamson, the interviews on my YouTube channel, we interview her, and she and her friend start having contacts with these what they call the beings in 2017, and they don't have anything. They don't have faces. They're just little tiny beings, and they're getting some pretty profound messages from these beings.
Yep, and he was kind of camouflaged. Like I could see through him. I could see the outline of his body. Unlike the beings I saw initially, he didn't have any facial features, nothing. But I could tell like he was wearing something because I could see the outline of the helmet and everything. And I have here a little dot on top because as soon as I saw him, he started doing some weird hand gestures while climbing up. And he went through a purple portal or like hole that appeared in the roof. Yeah, and that was my experience.
Wow, fascinating. You've had a lot of experiences over the last little while, right?
Yeah, I've been mailing them to Greg. He isn't here, I think, today.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's basically again shows that there's certain people who are being contacted and are in. We've got a book called Contact Modalities, where people have figured a way to get into the field, and you're doing it through meditation, out-of-body experience, psychedelics, head injury, and there are people that have learned how to get and make contact with whatever this intelligence is, and I think it behooves the world to listen to these people.
Thank you very much for having me and listening.
Well, I appreciate your being here again. Anybody else, Desta?
Ron's next.
Ron, go ahead.
Hi there.
Oh, Ron from BC. No,
Right.
you're from Seattle, right? Oh, I can't hear you.
Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon. Yeah.
Yeah,
I knew
yeah.
and you're on that side.
Same neck of the woods.
Good to see you again.
Thank you. Good to see all of you. I made a few notes to myself to keep myself organized.
Good.
And I wanted to respond to Gerard, and I wanted to extend probably a thank you from many more people than me for the fact that you're in service to your community. And thank you for that.
Thank you.
Kudos on you. You also mentioned the word responsibility. And when I was listening to Tamara, most recently Tamara, and then Carla, and there were a couple other people too, we were talking about consciousness. And we're in a period of time where an awful lot of people around us have a lot of fear and anxiety. I'm one of these people who really like to feel like I'm well informed. So I've historically been a real news junkie. And yet I think I'm a little bit in the realm of sensitive or empath as well. So I just wanted to make a couple of comments, things that popped into my head while I was listening to all this, and whether they're useful to others or not, remains to be seen. But when I watch the national news, it really pisses me off. However, when I watch the local news, I get detailed information from people that could be very helpful in me living and doing my day-to-day life. So for those other people who also like to be informed, that was something I just wanted to offer. It seems to affect me differently, and I also suffer from anxiety and fear like everybody else. The thing about responsibility is that if this is about consciousness, if all of this stuff is about consciousness, then our responsibility to ourselves and to each other is to manage our minds away from fear and being pissed off and annoyed with other people to more positive things. And that kind of ties into, if we create our world, then that is something we can use to help us create a better world, if nothing else, just for our own personal mental health and possibly our physical health. In fact, indeed, our physical health. So redirecting our consciousness. I've been around Hopi people a little bit, and one of the things they like to say is they follow the beauty way, or a beauty path. And my way of saying that is, just continue to use your focusness, our focusness, my focusness, focused intention toward looking for beauty. And right now, because I'm drawn toward music, that's my fix, my happy place. I've been noticing that on social media, whether it's FaceTime Live or YouTube or Zoom, more and more famous people are posting videos in such a way that make them feel more ordinary to the rest of us. And also, a lot of ordinary people are getting out there and expressing themselves in their creative endeavors. And I think that is a question that helps us with balance. And so I am finding myself drawn more and more and more to paying more attention to all of those creative endeavors than I am to the like the national news and the politics. And frankly, the only thing I really have control over is myself, right? I can try and control the way I think, what I look for, how I speak to others. When I try to think of the bigger picture and trying to affect all of that, other than voting in a democracy, or jumping in yourself and being a participant in the process by running for office. My God, I would never do that. But really, we only have control over ourselves. And in the course of doing that, we can be an example of walking the beauty way, as my Hopi friends would say. And one of the things that I wanted to say beyond all of that creativity and art and music that's being shared so much is to hold gratitude and express gratitude out loud as much as possible. And when I listen to people talk about how much anxiety and fear is going on right now, boy, I can feel it. And so that's my 2 bits worth.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. I'll just add one thing to that. It hadn't been brought up. I talk about a bit is if you live in the past, you're going to be depressed. If you live in the future, you're going to have fear and anxiety. If you live in the present moment, that's where you're supposed to be. That's what music's about, is it brings you back to the present moment. We have this wonderful thing where we're not dead yet. We're here talking to each other. And it's like the famous Bashar where the guy asks him, where Bashar asked the guy, he's talking about time. He says, well, look at your watch. What time is it? And the guy says, oh, I know, it's 2:32. And Bashar says, no, what time is it? He said, it's 2:32. No, it's now. Now. It's always now. Live in the moment, and if you get into the future and you're looking at what may happen, you can think of all sorts of bizarre things and imagine all sorts of things that are going to happen. But if you live in the here and the now, that's what a lot of mystical philosophies and very high level people are teaching. The now is where you have to be. Anybody else?
Can I answer, Ronald?
Go ahead.
Yeah, personally, I don't watch any news. I don't read newspapers because the way I see it now, my subconscious mind has to remain as pure as I can leave it. I don't, because I mean, if you're ingesting all this fear-related stuff, it's just going to come back on you. I mean, at 3 a.m. in the morning, if you're trying to astral project, the last thing you want to be doing is thinking about fear-related things. And that's something that's happened at the Spiritual Development Group, because a lot of people are very fear-based and they believe in dark entities and dark spirits, and they keep saying to me, oh, haven't you experienced anything? And well, you must be very well protected, Jared. They say, and they say, you'll soon find out when you come into the channeling sessions, you'll see the dark side. And I'm like, listen, it's not part of my life. I've never seen anything dark, only good things. So I think it depends on the person as well. And that's what I'm saying about wherever you perceive that could come back on you. And you've got to be very careful what you let into your subconscious mind. So yeah, I don't bother with any of the news channels or any news. I watch YouTube and I'll watch movies. Yeah, so I understand what is it selfish? Is it selfish you only want the good stuff? I don't know. But sometimes you only got so long in the life. You've got to pick what you want to put in it, haven't you? And so yeah, I just wanted to point that out. I just don't bother with any of it really, and I don't know what's going on half the time because I will focus on the kind of things that I think is going to be uplifting. And I think the phenomenon reacts better with you when you're uplifted. And this has come from a lot of the OBEs, because as soon as you go out of body, well, you actually think you're going in. There's nothing out. You think you're going in. But on that basis, the way you view the world is totally different. The ego goes all thoughts of ownership or jobs. It's all out the window. It's gone, and you're just left with just you and whatever you are at the core. So yeah, I just don't get dragged along with it all anymore. I just tend to focus on the things which are going to keep me. Don't worry about politics, war. Don't bother with any of it. It's just a bit. Just let it all go. Let it go and enjoy the world for what it is, if you can.
Beautiful. Julie does Life Between Life regressions, and I'm a big Michael Newton fan. Everybody knows that. And according to the 7,000 people, from what I've read, when you leave and you have the life review, they ask you how did it work out, because you made the play, you put the actors in. And if you start bringing up Hillary or Trump or my mother-in-law or the dog ate my homework, they're going to cut you off and say, no, this is not about anybody else. This is about you. So you're right. I think that you stay with yourself. That's all you can control. You came into the world to do something. You're going to leave. You're going to answer for it. You can't answer for anybody else. You can only do what you're supposed to do. And that's, you got to figure out what it is that you came into the world to do, and then just do it.
Yep, I agree.
Grant?
Go ahead.
Oh. I agree with Gerard and Ronald and what they were saying about taking responsibility for yourself. And I think having a higher vibration comes from dwelling in that sense of love and compassion and reaching out to others. But there is what is called the collective consciousness. And that is the combination of all of us being in that consciousness of love and compassion. And so we can only do what we can do for ourselves, but in doing it for ourselves, we also do it for the collective consciousness. So I truly believe that as we work on ourselves and get our vibrations higher, we will raise the consciousness around the world. And I don't know if you've heard of the 100th monkey theory, but that is the belief. The study that was done was that in the jungles, they found if they taught 100 monkeys something, it would spread. It was automatically spread throughout the rest of the kingdom of monkeys, I guess you'd say. But it is consciousness, and it does have power. And so by each of us being in that consciousness of peace and love and getting away from the fear, we can change the consciousness of the world.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. I have Carl down here to speak. Carl, have you got something to add here?
Yeah, more on the consciousness thing. Recently, I had a past life regression, and I found out I was some senior type priest from the 1700s in France. And I saw the in-between world before I came in, and it was like it's not like physical, I was just energy. And before I came in for me, it sort of formed like a 3D room where the plans were made, showing the planet, what I'd look like at 8, 9 years old. And recently, through synchronicity, I had the idea I should get some older book called The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot.
Yep.
And it's a bit dated, but it goes into basically beneath the energy, it is one way of seeing it, maybe not all too, is like a holographic. So we have a say, but you have a say also.
Yep.
And so if I want to cure a disease in my body, if I have the faith and that the flesh just changes whole, or I can make a disease if I am in a bad mood. So we have a say in our life. And I agree again with, there's people in other groups that they're so concerned with the past and the bad things in the past that they don't see that today. They don't see what they can do to fix it. And all they do is blame. But live today, work on the past, get help, and good luck.
Beautiful. I'll add one thing to the Michael Talbot thing, because Linda Howe told me that Bud Hopkins, near the end of his life, was on a plane with her and told her that Michael Talbot, who wrote The Holographic Universe, was actually an experiencer. He was one of Bud Hopkins' clients. And if you've watched the interviews done with Michael Talbot, he talks about this thing about manifesting. And he said when he was a young child, a lot of experiencers have poltergeist experience when they were young children. And he said, when the poltergeist was in my room, he said, if I was in a good mood, it would hang the socks off the plants and be very playful. But if I was in a bad mood, I would wake up with needle marks and cuts in my arms. And he was trying to make the point, you are part of what's happening around you.
Oh, yes. I've had many times half awake or awake where there was beings came in, energy or that. And I knew somehow to never show fear and show respect. And whatever the energy or being was, they would pick up that I was not angry, I was not fearful, even if it was like a I had supposedly one time pissed off a being that was, snake type, his face. He was angry with me, but I was so happy and so no fearful, it just went goodbye, and and that's it. So that's what I try to do. Here's a new experience. It's not bad. I just deal with it.
Beautiful. I agree with you. Anybody else, Desta, on our list here?
Yes, Mark Olson.
Mark Olson, my buddy, my brother from Winnipeg here. How you doing, Mark? Mark, where are you? Mark Olson.
Hold on, I'm trying to unmute him.
I'm here.
Welcome, Mark.
Oh.
I can't see you. Where are you? I see Desta's picture up here. What's going on here?
His mic is unmuted and his camera's on. I can't see him either.
I heard him there for a second. Mark, you're not coming through. You didn't pay your internet bill. Mark runs the Winnipeg UFO group, and just for a little promo, we're going to do Ron Johnson the second Tuesday of next month, and we're going to broadcast it live. And so everybody that's on this list will get an invite to that interview. Ron Johnson is an incredibly interesting story. He's not got the greatest health. We want to make sure we interview him, and so we're going to do that. And then if Mark, jump in if you come on, Mark. But the month after, because we've got the no gathering thing here, the second Tuesday of April, we're going to do something very unique. Mark has allowed Sinead, Desta, and I to broadcast. We're going to do a panel of light language speakers. So we have Linda Green is on here. She's one. We have Hildegard, who is on here. We have Mary Rodwell from Australia is going to come and play audio tapes of her little 7, 8, 9-year-old kids speaking light language. So that'll be the second Tuesday of May, and everybody will get an invite for that. So are you back, Mark?
Linda wanted to talk too if he's having problems.
Okay, Linda, one of our light language speakers. Come on, Linda, and we just promoted your appearance in May for Mark's group.
Yes, I would love to share. But I also wanted to say that one of the things I was told is that, like I'm a bridge, you know, the extraterrestrial human kind of bridge, and that I would be telling stories. And I'm not a storyteller, but lately, since this virus has come about, these little poems and things have been popping in my head about us being elective and how we never die, and so we don't move into fear. We don't need to move into fear, because even death does not kill us. I mean, I think that's some of the things that we're all trying to share. And I didn't hear anybody really, in general, in fear in this video call. I hear people who are aware. I hear people who are noticing. I listen to people who have ideas and concepts, but I find everybody here very conscious and loving and wanting to change the world. And so I'm grateful for you all. And I want to thank you for your experience. And most of you have been through some difficult times. And I just want to honor you. So thank you.
Beautiful. And we're looking forward to, we actually have a video of Linda coming up within, I don't know when it'll be, next week. And you actually give us a light language message, which people will be able to see. This is something new in the UFO community. It's only the last couple of decades at the most where this has come through. It's almost like the veil is thinning and these people are coming forward. I remember it was actually in the Winnipeg group where Mark, I don't know if Mark was there when this happened, but we had Mary Rodwell on and she was playing audio tapes of her young kids speaking this light language. And I looked around the room and there was people in the room who seemed to be nodding like they knew what was going on. I go, you've heard this stuff before? And it was unique that I've now found, we're going to have a panel, I think, of six people, I think all women, maybe one man, five women and one man. and you're gonna be just blown away by this this new thing. What do you think is going on, Linda? What do you think the light language is about for people?
I think the light language is an evolution of consciousness, and as the people who, some of us are gaining it so spontaneously and don't even know what it is, but I think it's the evolution of the consciousness of the planet, reminding us who we are, because that's what we do, and we start to speak languages that are native to us, more native than English or whatever is your native language. And so when other people hear this native language that they remember in their soul, it awakens codes in them. So it's a wake-up call of remembering who we really are, which is probably not this human form. I think that's what it's about.
Beautiful. We're looking forward to that. And so everybody will get a link. And as we said before, we're going to try to link up with Hildegard's group in Toronto. And we'll try to link up with the group in Phoenix. It's a big group where Linda's from in Phoenix there, and Linda has her own group. And I think if we can link up all these groups, maybe now, because we're doing it because everybody's not allowed to go to meetings anymore, we're starting to do this internet thing where we could have some meetings all over the place where you sort of tune in every night and there's a meeting in a different place or a different discussion. And instead of watching reruns of football games, you can tune into some meeting at some UFO place around the world. So we'll see how that goes. Anybody else, Desta?
No, that's it. But maybe you want to see if what Mark wanted to say, I think, is if anyone wants to give their email addresses and want to be part of his group, then that's the Winnipeg. Do you want to tell them that?
Yeah, well, I think we'll send an invite to all the people. We'll just we'll send out to our people our long list that there is an interview with like Ron Johnson in April, and then the light language people in May. And so everybody here, but you have to make sure if you're here, because some of the people I gave it to this invite on Facebook. So you got to make sure that you're on the email list. If you didn't get an email for this meeting, you need to put your email address in the chat to Desta, because you may not get another email. We have a list that we continue, but you have to be on the list. And we will probably also link in people, because there's more and more groups now going online that you may see Phoenix MUFON, which is a huge group, go online, and if you're on the list, if we maybe can send you links to all these various groups, or Boulder, Colorado has a big group, Orange County, California has a big group, so we can link up all this, all these people, and you'll get these things, and you can ignore the email or whatever. But that's about it for me.
Last person is Mark, it looks like.
Mark, you're back.
I am.
Oh, I don't see your pretty face. What's going on?
That would be shocking.
There you go, Mark Olson. Welcome.
Good. It's nice to be. Lots of interest in discussion this afternoon, and I would like to also add. Someone had been mentioning antennas. I came in late to the group here today, but you and I both know this guy named Tim Taylor from. He works with NASA, and we went on a UFO dig, crash in the plain of St. Augustine, which is a simultaneous crashing to Roswell, is what we were told. And I will tell you that one of the things at night that we were in the dig for 5 days, and one of the things at night that he talked to me about at NASA emulates our DNA in all their transmissions and all their antennas. And could that mean that our DNA is actually a transmitter and a receiver at the same time? One of the reason I was bringing this in, I know someone had talked about living in fear instead of living in love and doing that sort of thing. I see that the worry I have, and I like to try and be as optimistic as I possibly can most of the time, and most of you know me, that's typically the way I am. My worry is 5G being a transmitter and our DNA being a receiver transmitter. Is that something that's coming up and maybe one of the causes of disease from that perspective? Vibration and energy is really all we are anyways, but well, some of us are more than that, but that's the way I look at it anyways. And it's one of the things, I know we're at the end of the show here, but I just wanted to raise that because I thought that was a very interesting thing to put in your mind. The idea that our DNA is basically the best antenna that NASA uses and emulates themselves. So
yeah, I actually did look that up. This thing that all their antennas are shaped like their deep space antennas are shaped like DNA, and if you actually look, it looks just like a DNA molecule. And the other thing that connects to that is Roger Lear, who did the alien implant, also said that the signal that was being given off by the implants was the same frequency as deep space communication. So the two linked up, and it's like, so they can make the connection. And you and I both know that Tyler D, as they call him in the other book, is big time on this, that he claims that he, like some of the people here, can bring them in, that he sleeps for 8 hours, then he gets up, then he sleeps for another hour, then he gets up, then he has a big glass of water, and he sits in the sunshine, and the beings start talking to him. And you can probably confirm that he had a major invention. We were in that cabin in Pennsylvania where he was telling the story that a hooded figure standing at the end of his bed, and he sold his company for major bucks, and he's got 40 patents, I think, and he claims that the vast majority of them are coming from beings that he's in contact with.
Yeah, that's true. He's an interesting guy, although he seems to have dropped off the face of the earth at this point. But
yeah, he's completely gone off the thing. But at least we were lucky enough to meet him, and so we were lucky enough there. But again, it's even with the fear thing, is you and I, Mark, chose to be here at this time and this place in the middle of this mess, and perhaps for a reason that you and I are supposed to do something.
And I'm looking forward to it.
Beautiful. You're a good friend, and you've always been a great support. And thanks for running the Winnipeg group. And with that, maybe you can just sort of maybe talk a little bit about next month, and then we'll leave it at that next month, and what we're planning to do, what you're planning to do in the Winnipeg group.
This is not May. We're talking about April, correct?
April, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know much about April. Brad is the party that's actually put that together. I've just the April one is the one that I'm very excited about. But
the light language one, yeah.
The light language one in May, yeah. That's going to be over the top. I see Linda there. Hi, Linda. I can only imagine if enough people can listen and get wind of this coming on and being able to watch it with people speaking light languages and actually being able to understand them, and potentially even to be able to get messages from these during our meeting would be very interesting. I mean, no different than the first time we met people that said they flew craft, Grant.
Yeah.
This type of thing is sort of like a next stage, next step, it seems. And communication, as Linda said, is a big part of the next step. And human communicators between higher level beings is probably one of the big steps for us. Without communication, we don't have much.
They all seem to come out of Phoenix. The first flying craft was out of Phoenix, and then Linda came, and so Phoenix seems to be the place that sort of brings these people out and starts these whatever things we're studying here.
I think it has something more to do with the weather than Phoenix, but
there you go. Well, thanks, Mark. And you have how many people on your list now to show people how this works when you can actually reach out? And we started with you, me, and Lucy. Remember?
Okay. Yes.
And how many people have we got now?
There is 767 people.
There you go. So that's how it works. You reach out, you make contact, and share stories, and eventually we'll all change the frequency of the world, and we'll go to love and light and oneness and living in the now. And thank you, Mark, for being part of that with me, and Desta as well, who basically makes this all happen. And thank you, everybody, for showing up. And we'll probably do it maybe in another 2 weeks, because everybody's still going to be inside, I guess. And we'll do it again. And anybody that wants something to be discussed, or if they want to show some photographs, we'll show you how to do it, and we'll go with that in 2 weeks. So thank you very much for showing up.
Thank you for having us.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Beautiful.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Beautiful.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye now.
Goodbye, all.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Sending much love.